Hey guys, Nate here. We're going to get to this episode and my conversation with Katie Feeney in a minute here, but before we get started, one of the challenges of recording interviews for this podcast in advance is that, things can happen after the fact that change the color and tenor of the conversation. Throughout today's interview, we make mention of the open mic night that Katie was hosting at Dobbs on South Street in Philadelphia, and that's changed. She's no longer there. If you haven't heard, there's been a serious allegation of sexual assault by an employee of the bar of a young woman who was there to see a show. And the investigation by the Philadelphia police is ongoing. So in light of this, and rightfully so many bands in the community have been pulling out of their shows from Dobbs. So, of course, I wanted to give Katie a place to address the situation and the severing of her relationship with Dobbs. And she sent me the following statement, which I would very much like to read for you now. She said, quote, "Given the very serious allegations, I made the decision to cancel my open mic night at Dobbs on South and am no longer involved with the venue. I am currently looking for a new home for my open mic night and hope to announce that soon. I am devastated by all of this, but I stand with women and all victims of assault." End quote. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. I'm disgusted, I'm repulsed, and frankly, I'm fucking angry that this happened, and my heart and support goes out to not just this victim, but to all victims of assault. Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have heard The Hospital One Man Down rework by Madison Cunningham featuring Remy Wolf yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. Qui-Gon Jinn, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I sit down for a chat with Katie Feeney. We talk about her life and her music and her newest project, Roberta Faceplant. And that is coming up in a minute here. But first, what it do, pals? If this is your first spin on the wheel, well, thank you for taking some time to check out the show. And if you are a repeat offender, welcome back. I got so much goody goodness lined up for you guys coming up down the pipeline, and I just wish I could announce it and drop it right now. But I can't. I cannot wait to share with you guys everything I have been up to. But there is one thing I can share with yous, and that is, I just got the word that your boy has been tapped to perform on stage on April 27th at Caveat in New York City as part of the Risk Show. For those of you unfamiliar, Risk is a live show and weekly podcast where people tell true stories that they never thought they'd dare share in public. Risk is created and hosted by Kevin Allison, who you may remember as one of the members of MTV's The State. I am an enormous fan of his, and I am an enormous fan of that troupe. So this is so incredibly humbling, and I am honored to have been selected for this. And I am beyond excited to take the stage in New York City. So, if you are in the New York area, come check me out, like I said, on April 27th at Caveat in the Lower East Side. Yeah, man, cool shit on the horizon. And the best way to stay on top of all the goings-on, like I say, is to sign yourself up on the mailing list. Visit www.yothat'smyjawn and throw your email in that little pop-up that comes up, and boom! You are locked and loaded and ready to get all of these sweet, sweet updates delivered directly to your inbox. And while you're there, if you have ever wanted to rep Yo, That's My Jawn on your body, you can click on the shop link while you are there on the website and treat yourself to a t-shirt or, some other form of merchandise, however you see fit. And of course, lastly, make sure you are following us on the socials at Yo, That's My Jawn. All right, we're going to take a short break, but then my interview with Katie Feeney. My guest today is a singer and songwriter who has been a staple of the Philly music scene for over a decade. Her latest project, performed under the moniker Roberta Faceplant, is an alt-country delight, calling back the classic country of yesteryear, inspired by the greats like Patsy Cline, Dolly Parton, and Loretta Lynn, and fusing that sound with contemporary inspirations like Casey Musgraves, Carrie Ann Hurst, and our former guest, Pearl Charles. It's a sound that is perfectly epitomized in her single Keep Talking that is set to be released this Friday, February 24th. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Katie Feeney. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Katie Feeney. Katie, thank you for joining me today on Yo, That's My Jawn.
I'm as excited as you are.
What's amazing? It's so funny because I literally was just eating dinner with my fiance and I just said to her, I should do a supercut of everybody's reaction when my voice comes booming through, when all of a sudden the persona comes on and the interview starts. And your reaction was absolutely exactly what I was talking about.
I mean, we're twin flames in that regard too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once those stage lights come on, it's time to go.
Shazam! Yeah. Who is she?
That's exactly right. Well, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you here on the show. This is going to be a lot of fun. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is famous. Well, for a lot of things. A lot of people know us from that movie, That Thing You Do, and the One Eaters, which is one of the more exciting days when they filmed that movie. Erie, Pennsylvania, so opposite side of the state as to where I live now in South Philly, but kind of made my way across Pennsylvania. I went to Penn State, and then after college, I did AmeriCorps. I ended up on the Jersey Shore, and then I moved to Philly in 2008. Right in the middle of the World Series win. And I lived right downtown.
Geez.
Yeah. So it's like anytime we have a full circle moment where people are, packing Broad Street, I'm like, it feels right again.
That's awesome.
This is the Philly I remember from day one.
That's an awesome welcoming.
Yeah. It really, I mean, I kind of was just like, is this how it always is? And they're like, oh, well, not usually, but only when, the Phils are good, which is, hey, it's good to be good. No, but Philly, I've been here for a while, since 2008. So however many years that is. But yeah, born and raised in Erie, Pennsylvania. My parents are still there. So it's nice every now and then I get to go home. Very nice place to visit in the summertime if you haven't. Got some lakes, got some beaches. Can't complain. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. When you were a kid, like what were your parents listening to? What was playing around the house?
Very different sides of the musical spectrum. So my dad is very into classic rock, classic country too, which I didn't share that kind of love for him immediately, love with him immediately. You know what I mean? But he listened to, the one thing we could always listen to together was Patsy Cline, which I still love to this day. But yeah, he liked the Beatles. He likes the Eagles. He likes the Southern classic rock, Allman Brothers, like that kind of stuff. And my mom was more into like Sade and like Earth, Wind and Fire and like funky music she could dance to and like reggae, and stuff that my dad, so they're very different, but kind of covers it all, under one roof growing up.
It's really interesting because it's like your two sides of your music career right now is kind of bouncing back and forth between your mom and your dad.
That's funny you should say that. They kind of are my like both kinds of music, I guess,
Yeah, that's wild. So like were you what was like kind of the first thing you remember being like your own back then? Like what did you find yourself drawn to?
Oh, like music wise, or
yeah.
Man, so I feel like we had the radio in the car, and I had the radio at home, and I would like listen to the radio occasionally, but like the things that like the CDs and tapes that I had were kind of like passed down to me from different family members. My mom's side of the family, very musical. Both her brothers, or two of her three brothers, musicians. And so there was always people being like, oh, you'd like this. So I remember one of my first cassettes that I would play over and over again was En Vogue.
Yes.
Funky Divas album, which came up on my, you asked me for some of my favorite well, I don't want to give anything away, but that almost came up as one of my is that my favorite album ever? Like, I listen to it a lot. But I listen a lot of Michael Jackson, a lot of Mariah Carey. But then like as I got older, I got into these weird phases like 90s country, like now go by the Chicks. Like I was all over that. And like that's just some weird stuff too. Like I got really into hair metal when I was in high school. I don't know where that came from. So I was a little all over the place, to be honest with you, Nate. But yeah, but some of those early tapes that I remember like listening to in a Walkman were En Vogue, Michael Jackson. Probably like the first two that I played so much that they wouldn't play anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You ruined them.
That's so cool. Were you a musical child? Like, were you taking music lessons and stuff like that as a kid, or?
Yeah, for sure. We all had to, but I was kind of already interested in that. My mom was just like, everyone has to take an instrument, And I loved to sing. I loved musical theater, and I auditioned for everything growing up as a kid. But like, I was like this tall when I was like 11, so I had never got any parts. Or like, you can't play adult roles. Like, you're way too big to be in the kids, choir. But I loved musicals. I would listen to like Sound of Music soundtrack with my grandma in the car, like over and over again. I have a lot of memories of that. But yeah, I would say like, that was definitely my thing.
Yeah. Were you like kind of, did you have any interest in like creating your own stuff as a kid? Like, were you ever like writing as a kid?
I wrote a lot, but it wasn't music. And it's funny you should say that because, like I was a journalism major in college, and like, it was just because it was something that I was always good at and liked to do. And, it is cool now. Like, lyrically, I can just like, oh, like this is kind of the same thing. You know what I mean? Like it's the same process. And I've even I can get into this later, talking about like some of my new music that I've been working on now. Like one of the songs that I'm putting out very soon is like a readaptation of a poem that I wrote when I was 14 that I like revisited and was like, oh, like these lines jumped out at me, so I'm gonna form like a song around this like poem. So yeah, I always was writing. I used to write people little stories and like pass it to them in class and be like, finish the story and write back. And like, most people would not. So a couple people, entertain me. They're usually like my younger brother's friends, and I would like torment with these stories that I'd make up about them. But yeah, I always liked writing. I was always very creative as a kid. Always did, voice lessons, summer theater camps, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You said you weren't successful at getting roles, but did you ever get to scratch that itch eventually? Like, did you ever get cast in anything eventually, or?
I've never been cast as a lead in a theatrical performance. I guess that's still like a bucket list. Like, I did a performance recently that had like some elements of theater to it. My friends Jim and Paula do a thing called Sexton Sideshow here in South Philly. They're the sextons of the Gloria Day Church. It's like the oldest church on the East Coast. I always get that fact wrong, but it's a very old, beautiful church. It's right on like Columbus and Christian. I don't know if you've ever driven past there.
I know vaguely where that's at.
They do concerts and music things as fundraisers for the church, and they did a recreation of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" the movie. So that was the first time in since high school where I was like, okay, like you have to enter stage left, like you have like a plot, like you have like this is when you're on, you have a script, like, and it was like, oh man, this is kind of scratching my itch to actually like try it again. But no, I never really excelled at that. No, in high school I did sports and I did theater, so it was kind of like never put all my eggs in that basket until I like graduated in college, and I was like, I love to sing. I want to do this. Like, this is my dream. So I kind of like found a way to do it in front of more people for money sometimes, like once I got to Philly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did start with like musical theater and being a kid and kind of like looking up to I used to like send my like pictures and like a demo of me singing the national anthem to like Arista Records and be like, I would like to be Whitney Houston. I am 12. Could you please listen to my demo? You know what I mean? Like in hindsight, like super
That's so cool.
embarrassing. And like I wish I had that kid's confidence a lot lately. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're afraid to shoot off an email to someone that you know and met 100 times to ask them to receive your work. You know what I mean? Or like someone who like, like I knew we hadn't met before, but I'd been following you on Twitter, and like sometimes it takes me like 20 minutes to send an email. I'm so scared of like what's gonna be on the other side of it. Like, but yeah, deep down there's a little 12-year-old kid in me that was like, trying to get a record deal with my national anthem demo.
you are speaking right to me, because that is exactly like if I had half of the like even just a fraction of the confidence I had as a kid.
Of your younger self, were you a creative kid too?
I was, like it's really weird because one of my favorite toys growing up was a tape recorder, like one of those Radio Shack tape recorders.
I had that too.
Yeah, and I used to just like it's funny because like I don't know that I've ever connected it, but I used to do like radio shows for myself.
Me too.
And like now that's my thing. Like now I'm literally doing the same thing, except for occasionally other people talk to me while I do it. Like,
oh man, I knew I liked you. I bet we had the same model too. Was it like, did it have like a red, like a plastic red and like the stripe kind of on it?
Yeah, of course.
I would take that on the bus. Like we went to see Phantom of the Opera, which early influence. I like after we saw Phantom of the Opera in Toronto, maybe grew up in Erie, so it was it was a bus ride. You had to like sit next to somebody. You're there for a couple hours. And I think we were in 8th grade, so prime hanging out on the bus with your friends time. And I brought this recorder, and I taped everybody like around the bus, and we called it the train show. I don't know why we called it that. But like to this day, one of my best friends from 6th grade, we still have inside jokes about like our radio show. But yeah, I used to record everyone and like have run my own little skits. I would make up my own commercials. Like
yeah. And it's funny because the other thing is and I just had this breakthrough. My breakthroughs are never anything that are going to help me psychologically. They're only things that like help me. Like I'm like, oh, creativity. But I was also very obsessed with Johnny Carson growing up. And I realized that like, oh, of course this is where I ended up interviewing people, because that's what I always wanted to do, was just be Johnny Carson. But, you talk about musical theater. I was the same way. Like I was always in the chorus. I was always, a dancer or like cowboy number 2 or something like that.
Yeah, man.
Like,
I was a very, very frequently a something number 2. Like
exactly.
Wench number 2 was probably my biggest role.
But like my dream was always like, I have 2, I might have mentioned it on here before, but my 2 dream roles, hands down, is Danny Zuko in Grease. I always wanted to be Danny Zuko. And I always wanted to be, and this is weird because not really, well, kind of the lead, but not really the lead, but I always wanted to be Brad Majors in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's like my main dream, and I'm going to do it someday. It's going to happen, even if I have to like put the production on myself.
I think you would be a very good Brad.
Yes, thank you.
Those are good ones, though. I like both of those. Those shows.
That's my those are my North Star. But so so you're in school and you're creative and stuff like that. How did you decide on Penn State? Did you apply to a bunch of places, or was that like your where you wanted to be?
Well, it's funny because my parents, like on graduation day, had this like letter ready to give to me that I had like written but not given to them about like how much I didn't want to go to Penn State, because I did. It's funny. I was, in preparing for the show, I was listening to Kristen Curtis's interview that you did on your podcast, and I was like, oh gosh, this is like very similar to my life. Like one of the reasons I like her probably too. Like I wanted to go to school for musical theater. Like I wanted to go to school for singing. And they're like, maybe we could be a little bit more practical with college, So my whole family, it's a Penn State family. Like my dad went to Penn State. My cousin Chris went to Penn State. He was like a, third string on the '94 Rose Bowl team. So like,
oh, wow.
It's a Penn State family. My like they have like a place to stay at Penn State because it was cheaper to like have a condo than to rent a hotel for 8 football games a year. Like Like we're a Penn State family. I went there, my brother went there, my sister went there. My mom's the only one in the family that didn't go to Penn State. So it was kind of like, like, oh, you want to go to college? Like you could go to Penn State. But I had a blast, obviously. I went to main campus, which was a lot of fun. But singing kind of was on the back burner there. I didn't really, I didn't like, I guess like in a way I was like, well, I'm not going to New York. I'm not going to school for musical theater. So like, what's the point? There wasn't a super strong music program at Penn State either. It's not what it's known for, So I had like 4 years of like not really tapping into any of that creativity. I was a fitness instructor, and that was like one of the only ways I was like got to be creative, so I could like make up classes and like build dance routines, and like it took a bunch of dance, and I love dance too. I took a bunch of dance in college, but like just for electives, like
sure.
I was never like, no teacher ever like encouraged me to be like to like go for it in a creative field. You know what I mean? Like I remember like always trying to include myself, especially I went to like a performing arts high school, and teachers would really try to discourage me from taking on extra art stuff. And I'm like, come on, man. Like,
right. You can't stop that drive. Like, like
I know. I'm just like, this is what I like to do. And like, there's like things I like to do that are creative that I'm not great at. Like, I love like painting. I love sketching, like doodling, and like, but singing was something that I was like, I really want to make this work. Like, this has been my dream. Like, I will not forgive myself if I don't try. After I'd done college and I got a sensible degree and I did sensible work for, how long have I been out of school, Nate? I don't know. It's been 20 years plus, 25. I don't know how long I've been out of college, but I had my 20th high school reunion recently. So I know it's like at least 20 something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's kind of just like, I've learned my epiphanies sometimes. I think your epiphany was a life-changing one, by the way. Don't sell yourself short that you said before, but like, yeah, like, that you can't rely on other people's validation. I struggle with this so much, but like, you got to just do it. Like, if it makes you happy, you got to just like make and create and put your blinders on and enjoy that process. And I'm trying to get back into that after, like, I feel like pandemic was like a couple tough years of like trying to like force creativity when you just were drained.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, dropped it for a couple years when I was on the Jersey Shore. I worked at a restaurant that had like music. I had like a piano guy on Monday nights. And so I was like the Monday night server, and I would get sucked into like singing along with the piano guy because I would get extra tips. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I moved back to Philly that I was like, all right, like I'm just gonna like Craigslist, like find people who need a singer. And that was chaotic and wild until I found some of the right people, and then I've been here in Philly trying to sing for my supper ever since, man. I worked for a couple great nonprofits along the way, but I keep quitting them because I'm just like, I can't give you my whole self and try to do this with my whole self. Like, and I am getting older with each year. I just feel like I can't put it off anymore. So, yeah, that's been my journey, man.
Yeah. The sidetrack there into the nonprofits, you were the director of development for what, 6.5 years for Rock to the Future? That's not just
research guy. I like that.
I do my Googles. But no, like that's not just like a temporary thing. That's a hefty chunk of time putting quality work in.
I got to sit down with Jess Kraft recently, who's the executive director, and her and Josh are the founders, and we kind of reflected like we really like the three of us and more, but for like the first couple of years it was the three of us. We were the only full-time staff, and the three, we all like working together with like really cool donors and really cool donors and volunteers, just like built that thing up to now it's like I don't even know how many kids they're serving now. Probably thousands. When I left, it was like hundreds. But yeah, I mean, I I was the development director there. I like learned a lot along the way. It was really cool to work with them, and we got to do some really, really cool things. Got to work with the Eagles, got to go to Firefly. Like, it's cool seeing them, like, they're still like kind of kicking ass. So when I was there, one of the bucket things that like we tried to do is like we really wanted to work with Kevin Bacon because he's a musician and he has like Philly roots. And they finally got him. They finally got through to him, and he recorded a song where the Rock to the Future kids are singing on the end. They got to like go in the studio and record with the Bacon brothers. So it's cool. Yeah, like while I was there, we got to teach some of the players, like the kids got to teach the players how to play instruments from the Eagles. So like we did some cool stuff. We did some really cool stuff. And they're still going. So I always, send people their way when they're like, I want to get involved in like, giving back musicians. I'm like, oh, they could absolutely use your help up there. So yeah, they're good people doing good work. It was fun. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like nonprofit jobs, especially, are a lot of work. Like, it's not a 40-hour job. It's nights and weekends, and you're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
And especially when there's kids involved, like you get so attached to these kids and you really want to go the extra mile for them. And I mean, they do that. Like they moved kids into college. Like that's beyond what was called upon. Like Jess and Josh is like people who started this nonprofit. So like you really get, it's like building a whole new family. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, 6.5 years or so. And so I left there, Nate, in the end of like November 2019, because I was starting to pick up some steam with You Do You. I'd like, I was thinking about like doing this country thing too. I was like, all right, this is it. This is my time. Like, I'm going to quit my full-time job and I'm going to do music full-time in November 2019. Now, if you're paying attention,
yep.
It was lurking right around the corner like Gritty with the fucking baseball bat.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough. It's still tough. There's like a layer of like, being like, your circumstances didn't allow any of us to really shine or be successful. And now we're kind of relearning everything, all of us,
Even as listeners, like I've been going to a lot of shows recently where I'm just like, do you people not remember that there's someone on stage performing? Like, I feel like everybody's just kind of learning how to do this all again.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
How do I interact in society?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's funny now, but at the time I was like, oh man, I ended up very quickly getting another very part-time contract job with a different nonprofit that I stayed with like during the pandemic called The Crossing. And they're a professional choral ensemble, Grammy Award winning, that focus on new music. And they did some cool things during the pandemic that like kept me inspired. Outdoor shows with every, person mic'd. They did some shows that like people were mic'd throughout different places in the woods as you walked through a trail in the forest, and the whole thing was like a sonic experience. So
wow.
Yeah, like there was still some gems of inspiration in the last 2 years for sure. But yeah, at first it was like a rough thing to kind of reckon with, that like I'm trying to do this so hard and I feel like I just keep encountering these giant obstacles that like are testing me, like to see how hard I really want this, I guess. Like
yeah, but see, to me, it seems like it's been nonstop, like, and that's what breeds like awesome work. Like, I mean, like, no, I mean, seriously, like, you mentioned kind of like the performing arts high school where people were kind of like trying to limit the art you were creating and all. It's been nothing but obstacles, and you fought through it because like it's your passion, it's what you want, and no one should be able to stop you from that. Maybe not even a coronavirus, like,
maybe not even yourself, Nate. Maybe not even yourself.
That's exactly right. You got to fight through it. But you mentioned You Do You in there. That started what, like 2012 ish, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
How did that project come together?
I had been in a band called Born Pilot right when I moved here. And we were really good. And then they kicked me out. They went in a different direction. Yeah, they're like, we don't want a woman singer. So then I was devastated. I was just like, I'm going to teach myself guitar. And I tried, but I wasn't great. And I, at the time, worked at a different nonprofit called Clean Air Council. My prior to Rock to the Future nonprofit experience was all in the like environmental advocacy world, which is a whole other story. But my coworker, I was kind of like crying to her about it, how I was just like, I want this so badly. And I keep, like I got kicked out of this band I was so excited about, and I'm going to learn guitar, but I'm struggling to teach myself. She's like, well, my roommate Drew just sits in his room and plays guitar all by himself. He's pretty good. So I bet he would teach you. And I'd met him 1 or 2 times before. And I was like, all right, it's someone I know, see, like an upstanding, trustworthy gentleman. So so I tried to learn guitar from Drew. And I got to about the F chord before I was just like, I can't do this. You're really good. Do you want to play guitar? And like, we could start a band. In between, I had like a duo project with my friend Adam Rivera when we were calling ourselves the Externals. But and I love Adam, very much his music with me singing. And I had kind of like my own music inside of me. So I started working with Drew, who's now my husband. We got married in 2018. But at the time, it was just like we were working on these silly songs. Like I remember one of the first songs we wrote was like a song about how I loved Chase Utley and how I was gonna like kidnap and kill his wife so we could be together. It's a little dark, but never released that one for obvious reasons.
Throw that on Bandcamp. I want to hear that.
You know what? I might do like a little like audio recording of it and just send it to you. Like just
okay,
email
I'm cool with that
you.
too. Yeah, I'm cool with
that. We probably have a recording somewhere from back in the Christian Street basement days. So we were working on a bunch of new songs and kind of organically like had a bunch of friends who were in other bands that at the time were kind of breaking up. And we're like, hey, you need a bass player. Like, do you think you need a key player? And I was like, yeah, you want to be in the band? Like, be in the band. Christ, that'd be great. So Alex Baranowski, who's still our bass player, was in a band when I first moved here called The New Connection. And so he joined on bass. And then at the time, our friend Curls Wilson, who since moved to Michigan, had a band called Curls Wilson. His real name's Willie Nelson, like his birth certificate name is Willie Nelson, but his stage name is Curls Wilson. So we all call him that because it's like less weird than calling someone Willie Nelson. People get confused when you say Willie Nelson. You're like, no, not that Willie Nelson, my friend Willie Nelson. So Curls was our keyboard player, and we had Tony Unander, my very good friend who's now in Secret American. I'm not sure if you heard of that band. Those are all our good friends. So yeah, like that was the start of the band. Tony moved to Brooklyn, and then we put out a Craigslist ad for a drummer. We had 2 people that we thought we could audition. The first guy really didn't work out to the point where I went into like a depression. I was just like, whatever, the band's over, And then the second guy was Aaron, who's been our drummer for the past 9 years or 8 years, however many, since he joined the band. And then similarly, we were playing as a 5-piece for a while. We had a lot of good momentum right when we started. Like in 2004, we formed in 2012, 2014, we released an EP and an album in the same year. And then shit kind of got real. And it took us a little bit longer to get the next one together. But Vince Tampio approached me somewhere in that time, 15, 6. I'm bad at this, but somewhere halfway through mark and said, hey, you need a horn section. And I was like, you want to play? So when Curls moved away, we didn't, we had a couple people play keys with us for a while, but then what we landed on, which has been our formation for the last year, which I think is going to be the solid UDU formation moving forward, is 3-piece horn section, 2 guitars. Now we're in big old 8-piece, which is super fun for scheduling, but it's very fun on stage. So it makes it a little bit worth it. but yeah, UDU's been kicking along, and like UDU isn't going anywhere. I've been focusing on Roberta a little bit more because I have new music coming out, but I did just land a couple. I don't think I can say them yet, but I did just land a couple good festivals for summer that have put a little bit of wind back in my sails, to keep the band working on the new music that we were kind of working on, like slowly. Like UDU was definitely like a pandemic pod. Like we tried to stay together and like only like we would rehearse, but like we were the only people that we would see, sometimes. So yeah, UDU's coming on. I guess like this is a year 11 for us, which is crazy, and a lot of that with the same lineup, which is cool. So those are definitely my brothers. Like that's my family. I love those guys.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you have mentioned Roberta Faceplant, and that comes out. When did you start performing under that? Like 2018? Is that what I read? Or
Yeah, and I told this story on the other show I was on Crack Radio with my friend Jawn recently, and it made me laugh because I was like, yeah, that is how it started. I was in a Led Zeppelin cover band, and my friend Mike had given me the name Roberta Faceplant like as a joke. Like he's like, you should go by that when you're singing in your Led Zeppelin band.
I never would have put it together, but it makes so the second you said it, I was like, oh.
So I was like, dude, that's a great stage name. I'm gonna put that in my back pocket. So that the Led Zeppelin band broke up, and I was one of my favorite singer-songwriters was coming to perform at Boot and Saddle, rest in peace. Maggie Kerner, who I'm not sure if you've heard of. She sometimes sings with like Galactic and like the Revivalists. Oh my gosh, tongue-tied. She's from New Orleans, and she's like performed at Jazz Fest. Like she very rarely comes up this far north on a tour. And I saw one of the benefits of like being addicted to the internet kind of is like you see shows as soon as they're announced. Mm-hmm. So like with some promoters, I'm first in line to be like, hey, I got your email 45 seconds ago. Do you need local support for this act? You know what I mean? And so I did that. Jeff Myers at the time was working at Boot and Saddle, great guy, who's now at World Cafe Live doing talent booking there, or it was last time I talked to him. Hope he's still there. And he was like, well, Katie, you'd use a little bit not the right fit for this. Would this be like the launch of your solo project? And I was like, yes, it would. Yes. Mm-hmm, yes, it would be. How'd you know? Yes, that's exactly what I'm reaching out about. Like,
yeah.
And he gave it to me. So then I was kind of like, all right, well, the UDU songs, like we'll do a couple of those, but like I need to write a bunch of new songs for this gig that I've kind of like successfully bluffed for myself, And that was a great show. We packed the place. I'll never forget that show. But like I had written a couple songs that didn't make it past that show. And then some songs that I'd written for UDU when I was learning guitar back in the early days that like didn't really make the cut with UDU anymore because they were a little bit too country.
Yeah.
So I took them back. There's 2 songs that I haven't released yet that I will next time I get back in the studio. I'll be working on hopefully an album for Roberta. But some of those songs will be songs that I wrote in like 2010 that like didn't make it as UDU songs. So I was like, okay, I got to pull them into the Roberta set. But after that, it was kind of like, okay, stop, take a step back. Like, what is this act and what does it sound like? Because like part of the thing not did wrong, but one of the things that's been challenging about UDU is that like a lot of people don't know where to put us. It's like, it's not quite jam bandy enough, but like we do fit in on those jam band festivals a little bit. And it's not quite like, neo soul entirely, but like we could fit in with some of those artists. So like, a little bit rock and roll, but like, I don't know that we, like we're not like a band that's played on like rock stations necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, like, what are we? But with Roberta, I was like, with all that you've learned from UDU, like take a step back. Like, what is this what is this band? What is your sound? What is the brand? Like, where do you fit in? You know? And along the way, just writing songs, I've kind of found a lot of inspiration in this emerging alt country movement, which is like a really like explosive, like up and coming scene. And there's so many cool artists, a lot of them women, who are like trying to like change what country music is really seen as, and like what it can be. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm very excited about it. I've been writing a lot of country songs that like lyrically, you know, and like in terms of like creativity, going back to, you know, full circle on this convo, like a country song is like a story, you know?
Yes.
It's like writing a, you know, there's characters, there's character development. Like it's kind of take me back to that, you know, that childhood place of creativity a little bit to write these like these ballad songs that are storytelling. So country music gives a little bit more weight to that, I think, than maybe the funk music does. But yeah, see, the thing about me, Nate, is I'm going to go on a lot of tangents here. So you might have to rein me in every now and then. But
no, it's perfect.
Find yourself being like, what was the question when I'm talking about, you know, my cornbread recipe? Like, how did we get here?
No, it's great. So how did you decide to do Everything Is Trash first as like the kind of coming out party for recording as Roberta Faceplant?
I write a lot of things that are political. With You Do You, it's a little bit easier to kind of like hide it in the sauce, you know?
Yeah.
Like you might not know if you're just like jamming to the riffs, like, oh, this is an anti-capitalist anthem. You know what I mean? Like, but with the country songs, I remember I was just like furious. That song definitely like, you know, is a President Trump era song. And I sometimes, to move through an emotion for me, I have to like get it on paper. And whether it turns into a song or not, you know, like some of my notes, I remember like Drew showing me, he's like, this is pretty aggressive. Like, I don't know if you should say this. Okay. Well, at least I got it out on paper. But no, Everything Was Trash is just kind of like the culmination of you know, like it is the pandemic. This is all garbage, you know, like, yeah. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. You know, I feel like you're picking up what I'm putting down, but yeah, that was where that came from. And, Drew, is from Georgia. So he's got a lot of that like country boy in him. So it's fun for him, you know, kind of collaborating on it home for me to be like, a lot of times, like when we're writing songs, either he'll come up with a riff and I'll come up with a melody and lyrics to it. Or sometimes like I come up with something in my head and I have to try to explain it to him with like onomatopoeia. Like, and then the guitar goes a bit of ding, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Can you do it like that? You know, and he's just like, all right. He has to try to like figure out what I mean. And so we did a lot of Everything Is Trash remotely with people too. My friend Lucas Kaczynski, he has a studio in like northern Philly called Sleepless, and he did the drums there, and then we did the guitars and vocals here, and then we sent it all back to him, and like, so yeah, like I kind of forgot that when I was like talking about the album, and I'm like, oh my God, Luke, you played drums on this. Like you played drums on this by yourself, like alone, you know? Like, how did we pull this off? But yeah, so that's where that one kind of came from. It's just kind of like the pent up, you know, rage about everything that was going on around me. Kind of had to put it into a song. But people latched onto that. I was pleased with how that was received, and that was also, you know, kind of like a wind in my sail to like, okay, maybe you should take another, you know, step forward with this country thing. Maybe you should just like keep going. So yeah, it's been good even this time around. Like with my releases, like it happened. This is the second time it happened where like I didn't pitch KEXP. Like I woke up to like, you know, so and so at KEXP email addresses paid $1 for your song, and I'm like, dude, what? How do they know I exist? You know, like
yeah. That's
Like,
amazing.
so it's cool. It's great. I'm excited that Roberta is gaining traction. It's cool. It's like a whole new world for me, and there's kind of like a new world of possibilities, especially given like the current the landscape of country music right now. Like there's room for someone like me, and that feels cool for once, you know.
How does it feel performing under the Roberta Project without 8 people behind you?
It's different. I mean, I'm kind of the same. Well, I would say I got the same energy, but like I do kind of get into the character of Roberta a little bit more because I'm not hiding behind like, you know, 3 horns and 2 soloing guitars. Like we do like to still have 2 soloing guitars because that just makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah, sure.
So like, or at least like you know, like sometimes we have clarinet playing with us. You know, something to make it different. But yeah, I kind of slip into the character of Roberta a little bit more. I'm really trying not to talk in a country accent when I do it, but it's very hard sometimes. It's very hard.
Yeah. Dude, once you get into it, like it can take you over very quickly. I have a little in my original past. I have a little alt country phase where I wrote. I actually talked to somebody about this recently.
Let's hear it.
I performed one of the songs at the open mic night at the Royal in Glenside recently, and as I was like introing it, I told this story about how it's one of 4 songs from a mini rock or alt country rock opera that I wrote based around the concept of Peter Pan as somebody dealing with depression. And they were like, "Oh my God, can you just play that?" And I was like, "No, you don't want to hear it. This one song's really good, but the rest is just so like."
I want to hear it, the whole thing. I'm going to sign you up as a featured artist at Dogs Open Mic so that you can perform the whole thing for me. Yeah.
Do the whole pan? Okay.
And honestly, our sound engineer, Lev, will love that because Lev has also written a country opera. So you guys should connect.
Okay. All right. I might have to take you up on that then.
Yeah, you really should.
No, but you know, writing in that style, I do find very easy to get descriptive and to, like you said, tell a story. Like it sets itself up well to be able to kind of birth that kind of creative challenge of like not just painting a picture, but also, you know, a beginning, a middle, and end.
Yeah, for sure. A friend of mine made me do a song of the month contest where he gave me like a songwriting prompt. He's like, write a love song, an unrequited love song to an inanimate object. And I was like, this is fun. This is like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like country music lends itself to that. I'm like, all right, okay. Drew was saying the other day, he's like, all you need to write a good country song is like a funny phrase and like build around that, you know?
Yep. What's your, I made this joke one time.
Like
what's
too many cooks in the kitchen, you know, something like, okay, great. What's the song, you know? To me, the recipe is what is your cliche and what is your false sentimentality? Because yes,
it's like,
I love that. I love that. That's
you
great.
know, or general sentimentality, I guess better describes it. The thing that everybody experiences, but you pretend only happened to you, you know?
The false sentimentality thing, though, that made me smile because you know who's really great at that is like early Casey Musgraves.
Yes.
It's like nailing what you're saying. So I totally get it.
So you're currently releasing a bunch of stuff. By the time this airs, I've figured it out date wise when it'll be. No, I didn't. I did figure it out. Give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I'm gonna edit this out. I had the date because I was just like. Because I had this sentence planned and I thought I wrote it down and I literally didn't.
No, you're doing great. It's our first blooper. We're doing pretty good.
So, like we were just talking about the new songs. Friday, your new song, your new song, "Keep Talking," will be coming out in advance of the Bricket Lounge show. Actually, I'm probably going to leave all this in because it's really funny.
This is how the sausage gets made.
Dude, it's very confusing to do things and then have them scheduled in the future, and then you forget what day it is, and you're like, I think it just came out.
Trust me.
But anyway,
I hear
keep
you.
Talking. Keep
talking, Nate. Keep talking.
It works. It works on level. But Keep Talking is the third of three releases that started with Two Gunslingers all the way back in January, which we're not still currently in or anything like that. But
not even close. Yeah.
But so what was kind of the idea of doing these three songs? Because you have more than this? So like what specifically, especially starting off with like a nice deep cut Tom Petty cover.
It is very funny that you say that, because my initial intention was to release an EP.
Okay.
And I was working on these songs with Drew. Aaron from UDU did the drums. Drew did all the other instruments. And we recorded them at Cambridge Sound Studio with my friend Todd. And, we're getting to the point, we're mixing them, we're almost done. And I'm having this just like conflict. I'm like, what's the story? Like, these have nothing to do with each other. And so that was kind of a freeing moment for me. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter that you've been saying for a year that you're going to release an EP. You can change your mind and release 3 singles. Like,
yeah.
So really it was kind of like getting the songs just out of me and out into the world. We did those 3 because they were formed, they were ready to go. The Two Gunslingers cover, we'd been doing live a bunch and it resonated well. So I said, hey, I've never released a cover. So I think this would be a good one to see how it's received, because I kind of wanted to get my version out there. It just was like personally important to me. The second song, Sunbeams, also personally important to me, was written in response to, like, in memory of my cousin who passed away in 2021. And so that was just also kind of like a song that I had to just get like out, like, and honestly, like into the ether, like as something to remember a loved one by. Like, I'm more and more realizing like how powerful that is. And then Keep Talking is really kind of like just to show like this is where I'm headed moving forward. So a lot of the new songs that aren't recorded yet that we've been playing live, and even some of the ones that are still in my notebook, are kind of more this like kind of pulling from all these different inspirations into finally finding like, what is my voice? Like, what does Roberta Faceplant sound like? Like, what is this going to be moving forward? And so that I would say is like emblematic of where I'm headed. And that's why I picked it as the last of the 3 releases, to kind of leave them with something like, okay, like, wait for what's next. That's gonna be, hope this inspires you to know what the future might be like. So, and honestly, the Keep Talking is like kind of like a country story, loosely based on real experiences, but also kind of like taking inspirations from like all the other country songs that you hear where like the band's just no good, but you can't quit them. You know what I mean? Like, like that's a popular trope in some of the classic country songs that I really love, like the Dolly Parton songs and oh my gosh, Loretta Lynn. That's a tongue twister. Patsy Cline even too, they all went there. So I'm excited. I'm excited about Keep Talking. I'm really excited for everyone to hear it. That one seems to be a fan favorite of the 3. So I'm glad that you dig that one. And that after that, I'll have to hit the studio and hopefully be coming back with like an album, and I'll try not to take as long as I took last time.
in not just in these 3 songs, but in, writing the new stuff and the stuff in the notebooks and trying to find that voice. Is there anything that's kind of surprised you that came out of nowhere that you were like, oh, I didn't expect to kind of approach that like that? Or
I think that there's one song that's like in the works that I'm like, if I actually say what I mean on this song, it's going to get me in a whole lot of trouble. And the hook, the title of that, the chorus of that song is called Mediocre Men in Music. And,
I love it.
So I'm definitely going to write it, but we'll see how we'll see. We'll see if I change the names to protect the innocent or not.
Now, let's say you play mediocre men in music at the open mic night. Are there any people who show up who might feel singled out?
I would love it if someone thought it was about them, and I'd be like, honey, if that shoe fits, you put it on and walk a mile in it. You go right ahead.
It's great. It's so great. I used to host open mic nights and
where?
I did there was so in the suburbs there's a place called Tex-Mex Connection, and
that sounds like my kind of place, Nate.
It is your kind of place. And that's where I kind of got my start. That's where I found my stage persona. That was like everything. So like I hosted an open mic night there. I did one in a bowling alley called Land's Bowl that burned to the ground, but the bar in there, we had an open mic night called Spare Time. Okay. And we actually soundboard recorded every single night. And
that's cool.
And they all exist. And I've been threatening for years to do either a podcast or something where I just like do like what a night at Spare Time would have been like. And the title of that podcast, I think I already said this before, but I'll say it again, is Legends in Their Spare Time. Anyway, so but the big open mic night that we used to host, me and my buddy Randy, we were in a band called the Impact Players back in the day, and we hosted when Kildare's was in Head House Square. I forget what it is now. But
yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's slipping my mind. I used to work in Rittenhouse. I just can't think of it.
I can't either. But anyway, we were there for a while, and that was like that was cool. Those are some days I miss. But what I was getting at was some of the people that came through really, really do feel themselves, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know, like.
Honestly, sometimes the more different people's acts are, or like the more let's say like unpolished, sometimes I like that. Sometimes I like those ones more.
Yeah, like wake me up.
I love open mic because you never ever know what someone's going to do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. And like those were always the nights that always like blew me away. Is like when someone would come in and I'd be like, oh, this is gonna be terrible, and then like they do something completely crazy, and I'm like, oh my god, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like,
no, for sure. It definitely like I'm at Dobbs every Wednesday, and sometimes it's a really late night, but like I wouldn't trade it for anything because like, yeah, seeing people who don't know they're good learn that they're good, or like seeing someone who is so good who's just like isn't like a recording or performing artist. They just like write songs and they share them every week, and that's the as far as they want to go, or they're happy, and it's like over the last year, I've had people, say like, this is the first time anyone's giving me a stage for 20 minutes. Cause I have featured artists that get to play like a little bit longer than 2 songs. Like last week I had this young woman who's new to town who like blew me away on her ukulele. And it was her first performance with her full band. It like brings a little, my heart grows 3 sizes each week, Nate.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
It's cool to be a part of that. Like, it's special, it's no gatekeepers. Like, everyone's cool. Like, it doesn't matter if you suck or you're learning or you're,
yeah.
There's room for everybody. I love open mic.
Some of my favorite open mic memories are like watching people like you were saying, that's their first night playing and stuff like that. And they're full of nerves. And then like within a year of like coming out and just playing and all, it's like, dude, do you want my job? Because I think you're better than me now. Like I always love that. Like, and it always feels like there's always a piece of me whenever like I see those people shine where I'm just like, man, I'm glad I could help like get you out somewhere. It's literally, oh my God, another breakthrough. Another thing about this podcast that I love is like these people that I just want to like, I want everybody to listen to, and you're definitely one of them. Like, you are so incredibly talented, and you write very awesome music. And I'm really excited for the Roberta Faceplant experience to grow and blossom, because I want to hear what's next. Like, it's really
I appreciate that. You're you're a mama bird. Like I said from the beginning, 2 seconds into this interview, I was like, twin flame.
Yeah.
I like this guy. I like this guy.
I love it. Well, at this time, you want to go through the Jauntlet? These are
shit.
my,
All right.
these are my questionnaires.
I'm a little scared about some of these. All right.
All right. It starts with the one-hit wonders. Billy Joel or Elton John?
I'm going to go with Sir Elton Jawn, Jawn, for the sake
love it.
of today.
Next one, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
We're going to go Debbie Harry here.
Yeah.
Some of these are easy. I'll let you know when I have complaints.
When you got a challenge? Okay.
Some of these were just like boom, boom.
Uh-huh.
Easy.
Aretha
Next
Franklin or Tina Turner?
Now this one I resented, this question. But I did end up circling Aretha.
Okay.
And I love a Tina Turner. I love Tina. I mean, like, that one was hard for me. That one was very hard.
I dig it. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
I know you're not going to like this, but I'm going to go with Nirvana. I'm not as.
It's fine.
Oh my God, you're so mad at me.
I'm really not. Look, I like a Nirvana.
You can't see his face. He's mad at me. He's mad.
They know. They've been with me long enough. They know. No, it doesn't make me mad. But how does that feel? Hosting the open mic night at Dobbs, Nirvana played there. That's fucking mind blowing.
It comes. A lot of people will get on that stage and cover Nirvana and like have a little moment of like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Nirvana. In my Roberta act, we've been working on a country cover of Jesus Don't Want Me for a Sunbeam, which I know is like a cover to begin with, but like that was who I love the Nirvana version of that song.
That's
so
dope. I like
iconic. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Very upset about this question.
Yeah.
I would say that I am more frequently compared to Janis Joplin, but I relate to Stevie Nicks because she was one of the first contraltos that I ever heard sing. And I have as you can hear, a lower register voice. Definitely a contralto. Sometimes I can sing like male tenor parts. But I can't, I refuse to answer this one. Refuses to answer.
That's okay. You're allowed to do that.
That's the only one. That's the only one I'll refuse.
The stereotypical big one, the Beatles or the Stones?
The Beatles or the Rolling Stones. I was Beatles girl. I appreciate them both, but in terms of like how I grew up, my dad was a hardcore Beatles fan. I've sung in a bunch of different Beatles tribute shows as a guest singer. And yeah, that one was also easy for me, although I know very controversial. Either one you say is like controversial to someone out there. So,
you mentioned Beatles tribute shows, and I'm just going to throw this out here into the universe because sometimes when I put things out in the universe, they come through. And I've actually talked to this gentleman about coming onto the show, and he said he was into it, and we just haven't scheduled it. But I played a Beatles tribute show once where Jim Bosia performed. And I got done playing. I played, I think, right before him, and then he played, and he got off stage, and he came over to me, and my song was No Reply, because I'm a John guy, and so I did No Reply, and he came over, and he was like, "Dude, No Reply, no one does that," and I was like, and it was like one of my greatest moments as a musician ever. Like I was just like, Jim Bosia thinks that I'm good at No Reply, so that means I'm the winner.
That's very nice. That's a great story.
That's fun. The last one of these, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
No Stairway, denied. I got to go with Bohemian Rhapsody, man.
Now I was kind of shocked because as it clicked, the Zeppelin tribute passed, and then the Roberta Faceplant. But
so my Zeppelin tribute band's niche was that we refused to play Stairway to Heaven.
I love it. Now here's a surprise. I didn't send this one in advance, but I have a very special one just for you.
Oh shit!
You ready? Patsy Cline or Loretta Lynn?
Man, that's another tough one that I almost wouldn't answer, but I will say that my first love of the two was definitely Patsy Cline.
Yeah.
That holds a very special place in my memory because me and my dad would always sing those songs in the car. And now it's cool. I've got the band doing like 3 or 4 Patsy covers for this Bricket Lounge show that we got coming up. So
That's cool. That's on Saturday.
Yes, yeah, I'm excited. 4-hour gig, 9 to 1. We've learned so many country covers for y'all. Of course, we have some originals peppered in there too, but it's going to be a lot of crowd pleasers. So if that's your thing, definitely come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Great barbecue. I'm excited to get out there.
That's so cool. Second half of the Jauntlet. This is my favorite. These are the things I love to hear from people. This is the top 10 countdown. As you know, being in Philadelphia from 2008 till now, the Jawn you can use to be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be music. It can be anything in the world. So Number 1, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with as a kid? I'm
going to go with the Muppets.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I literally just went to a screening on Sunday of the Muppet movie.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
In the theater because I always wanted to see it on the big screen, and it did not disappoint.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that on the big screen. That one was kind of hard because I was like, there's so many different directions I can go with this, but that popped into my head, and I was like, yeah, like Muppets got me definitely into like music, sketches, comedy, like theater. You know what I mean? I was kind of like all definitely the Muppets. So I credit them as an early influence.
Do you have a favorite Muppet?
Oh, this is I definitely relate highly to Miss Piggy, but I was always a very big Gonzo fan. And if you really pressed me on it, like I would go something like real niche and say like Bean Bunny or something.
Super cool. Gonzo is my favorite.
Gonzo guy.
Gonzo's. I relate to him on so many levels. Some that I'm not even ready to even really address. But I have to be very quiet about saying who my favorite Muppet is because Petey back here will get very upset.
I know. I was going to say, I was like, I know you'll be receptive to this answer.
Yes.
Been meaning to bring it up the whole interview. You got the little guy sitting behind you. I don't think I didn't notice that.
Well, I will send you a link after we finish this. But on my birthday, the first year I did this podcast, I decided to put myself through this Jauntlet, and I had Petey interview me. So there's a video on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I got to see that.
Interviewing me. It's quite fun. Number 2, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
See, now I debated this answer too, and what I settled on was that right now I am learning a bunch of new shit. I am learning a lot about the music industry. I've been working with through doing the open mic at Dobbs. I've gotten more involved with DVT Entertainment, the guys that do the booking at Dobbs, and kind of helping them with marketing and even booking a couple shows now and then, ticketing, stuff like that. So to be on the other end of emails, I'm usually on the asking for shows side and kind of see like all that they go through. And, it's been very eye-opening. So I say learning music industry, and also I'm trying to learn guitar again.
Oh, cool.
So I've started taking guitar lessons with Maddie Klauser, who's an awesome musician who's in a bunch of Philly bands, Pillow Princess, Mandy Valentine. There's so many. I can't even name all the bands that she's in. But I've been learning new things, which is difficult and scary, but also rewarding.
That's awesome. Is the F chord any better for you?
Oh, listen, it's going to be a while before we get back there. Apparently, I have a lot of bad technique to unlearn. From trying to teach myself. So
that was my problem. And
rudiments, man. I hate it, but I'm going to try this time. I'm actually going to try. I'm going to practice and try. So
it's weird. The F was very hard for me too when I first started learning, and now one of my favorite chords. So you'll get there.
I appreciate that, man. That gives me hope.
Yeah, there you go. Number 3, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you went to?
So I have 2 answers for this. The first concert I saw with adult supervision was Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yes.
At the Chautauqua Institute, which is a beautiful place to see a show if you're ever over in Ohio. Or is that New York? I don't know. The first concert I went to with my friends without any adult supervision was 98 Degrees, and the opener was Jessica Simpson.
Wow.
At the Jerry Ut ballpark in Erie, Pennsylvania.
That is awesome. Little Nick and Jessica action.
So
I like it.
They had just started dating, and we were all like 12-year-old, 14-year-old girls, so we booed her. Even though she was perfectly good.
Oh, it's great. Number 4, what was your last concert? What was the last live show you went to?
The last concert that I saw was my friend Eric 13 put on, it was kind of like a hybrid concert, like theatrical performance, once again at the Gloria Day Church. It was a Sexton Sideshow production, but he put on a concert called Bowie Church that was part of the Philly Loves Bowie Week. And it was him performing different David Bowie songs, but in between he had monologues prepared about like where in his life that Bowie song popped up in like a meaningful way. And like one of the best stories he told was that like his friend was a fashion designer for David Bowie, and so he ended up being David Bowie's fit model because they had the same size body, and so she would design garments for David Bowie but like on his body. And then like, yeah, so like it was cool. It was like a little bit, I had to think, I was like, technically it was a concert because there was musical performances. So yeah, Bowie Church was my last concert that I saw.
That sounds incredible.
In January. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really awesome. Number 5, what was your favorite concert? What was the best show you went to?
This was another really, really tough one. And I landed on, just because I feel like this experience will probably never happen for me again. But I saw Beyonce at the Link twice, but the time that was the most memorable, as part of working with the Philadelphia Eagles, when we were a grantee, when I was at Rock to the Future, they're like, ask us for anything you want, and if we can, donate it, like we'll give it. And I was like, can we have a bunch of tickets to see Beyonce? Floor seats. And they're like, how many do you need?
Wow.
So I got to see Beyonce during the Formation World Tour from the 10th row.
Jesus.
The elements of this show were the worst. It was probably like the coldest day. It was sleeting rain. So like you would think it would be miserable, but she gave, like, it makes me emotional. Like the show that she put on in the sleeting rain, like she's not a human being. Like she's like probably the greatest performer of our time. Like it was I sobbed like in the middle of the show, like at the part where she like pointed out near me, and my friend's like, she pointed at you, and I like fell to the ground. Like, so I'm gonna go with, there's a lot of compare. I also saw Lady Gaga at the Electric Factory before she was famous, so that was like runner up, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 very awesome choices.
I know.
I love it. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
Of the Jawlet, this was the quickest answer for me, which is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Michael Jackson as a kid, and the fact that I never got to see him live is still something that I am bummed about,
When I send you that link of me interviewing myself with or Petey interviewing me, there's a picture of me as a small child in my Beat It jacket. With my Michael Jackson sunglasses on, and you will see how obsessed I was. As a matter of fact, I'll go this far. I was so obsessed with Michael Jackson that I had in high school a long ponytail, and I used to dress like Michael in the Way You Make Me Feel video.
Yep, I love that music video. It's like my favorite one.
But in high school, that was 93, and this was like post first allegation, Michael.
Right.
And I still was in there like as a day one, just like, am I not the coolest in this hat with this ponytail? What are we doing?
Couldn't tell you nothing. Bouncing off that real quick, you had to fill out those things in grade school that was like, what's your name? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite? It's kind of like the childhood gauntlet. My parents kept one that I did that's like literally like 7 of the 10 answers are like, it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Michael Jackson. Who's your favorite artist? Michael Jackson. What's your favorite song? Will you be there from the movie Free Willy by Michael Jackson. Like, like
That's awesome.
What's your favorite color? Michael Jackson. Like, I just like put it for every single answer. I just put Michael Jackson. Like, what's your favorite food? Michael Jackson. Like, so yeah, I feel you, man.
So what was the I just watched it. What was the Michael Jackson cover you guys did with You Do You at Ardmore that's up on YouTube?
We did. We should bring that back. We used to do Leave Me Alone.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a deeper cut.
So good. So good.
I love that. So at Drew and I's wedding, we had Swift Technique as our wedding band, and then we got up and sang one song with them, which was Man in the Mirror.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So good.
Yeah. So definitely Michael Jackson.
I love it.
Easy answer.
Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn, something you wish had a little more shine to it.
I think that people make too much fun of 90s country. I think that 90s country music is actually really enjoyable and good. And this is just like a hill that I'll die on lately, probably because I'm practicing for this Bricket Lounge show and I'm revisiting a lot of these songs that I'm like, when people talk about country music, they talk about like, they like, is it country music? Like, is it PG? Is like post Garth,
Right.
But there's some good stuff in there. The Chicks were great. Shania Twain was great. So 90s country, underappreciated.
I am right there with you, man. Trisha Yearwood was great. And Faith Hill was great. They were, Oh,
90s people make jokes about it, but I'm like, I don't know. There's some stuff in there that I really still like, and I will defend.
I was, like a closet country, pop country even, guy up to somewhere around Toby Keith. That's when it started to get like, I'm out. Like, but don't get me wrong, because there are some, like Dierks Bentley. I'll listen to Dierks Bentley. I'll admit it, stuff like that. But
do you remember Rascal Flatts?
Oh my God, yes.
That was my yearbook quote was Rascal Flatts. It was between them and Pink Floyd. That's another thing that I'm like, it's kind of cringe about me.
The duality there is fascinating.
But I went with Rascal Flatts at the end.
All right. Hey, you made a choice. That's all right.
90s country, baby.
Can we go back to the one-hit wonders? Pink Floyd or Rascal Flatts?
Oh my God, I really can't. Yeah, please do.
Number 8, what's your favorite album?
This was honestly, I wrote down like 7, and I'm just gonna have to wing it.
Yeah, go for it.
Can I say like 3?
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, sure.
I do. So Pink Floyd, if we're gonna tag off of that, Pink Floyd Animals, definitely one in my top 3 favorite albums. I had a Pink Floyd band that I'm not sure is going to make it through the pandemic because it's a 10-piece band. It's even more difficult to practice for than you do. But we did. That was how we started, is that we covered Animals start to finish. And then we did another show where we covered Animals and Wish You Were Here start to finish. But the reason we did that is because Animals is my freaking favorite Pink Floyd, definitely my favorite Pink Floyd album, in my top 3 favorite albums of all time. So there's my cool guy answer. Because I was thinking about this, I'm like, there's albums I really like, but an album that I can listen to start to finish, anytime, anywhere, any day. And you probably haven't heard of this one. There's an artist called Carrie Ann Hurst, and she's half of Shovels and Rope, which you probably have heard of.
I was wondering, her name sounded familiar, but yes.
I like Shovels and Rope just fine. They're a great band. I just went and saw them at Brooklyn Bowl and I cried. It was amazing to be that close to them in a venue like that. But her solo stuff before she did Shovels and Rope is so good.
Really?
And so there's an album that she released, her second album, I think, called Lions and Lambs. And it's just it's on there's very few songs that I have saved that I've bought on my phone, in my iTunes from the iTunes store, and it's a go-to, if I'm driving in the car, I'm just I can put this on and I'm good for, 90 minutes. Drew, you can take a nap. I'm just belting out every song, Another one of my favorite albums that I just listened to this morning. It's very good when you're in an angry mood. This one's also going to make me look a little bit sus, a little cringe, but I love Incubus. Science by Incubus.
Okay.
Early, harder rocking Incubus. I freaking love. And them and Tom Petty are the acts that I've seen live the most times.
Okay.
I have to stop. I'm just going to keep naming albums. This was very different. I don't stand by any of those. I reserve the right to change my mind in 5 seconds. But
you're more
right
than
now,
welcome to.
I like that. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's your world as much as it's my world.
What's your favorite album?
So
if I put a gun to your head, what's your favorite?
It doesn't even take me a second to answer.
Really?
It's an immediate.
Okay.
But it's weird because and I can already hear people listening to this show going, here he fucking goes again. But my favorite album of all time is Pinkerton by Weezer. But I don't even know that I like Weezer anymore. Like I just don't like. So this is why they're all rolling their eyes. I have this whole piece that I've been working on for years now, which is I want to, I have a spreadsheet and I've broken out like all different data points about every single Weezer song ever written. And I'm trying to quantitatively answer the question whether or not I like Weezer. Based off of the data. It's been like my life project, but yes, Pinkerton by Weezer is my favorite album.
That was a big album for me in high school. Weezer and Third Eye Blind, man.
Oh, God.
I rocked out to a lot of that. We were Erie, PA. That was like where the thumb was on the pulse, for me in high school. So I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you.
No, it's all right. It's fine. Thank you. It's good.
I'm fine with that answer.
This is a safe space. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they put out.
I'm going to go with what was my immediate reaction to this. And I am not ashamed of this. I will defend her till the day I die. But I will, anytime Miley Cyrus drops something, I will definitely check it out. And I usually like it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now this is going to tell you how long ago this was. Back on my MySpace page when I was a performer, I had a really great cover of 7 Things, which was like my favorite jam of all time.
You're oh my God. Yes. I love Miley. Miley's always been great. I don't think people give her enough credit. I'm very glad that Flowers is finally she's got like a really big hit because Miley Cyrus has always been good. Look up her, if you haven't already seen these, she does like these backyard sessions.
Yes.
Have you seen those? Like the Lilac Wine cover kills me.
The one she did with Laura Jane Grace.
Yes,
my God, yes.
So she could really sing. I saw Miley at the Electric Factory too with Miley Cyrus and her Dead Pets. So it was
the Flaming Lips.
Yeah, Miley with the Flaming Lips. That was a very memorable show. That was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's definitely no judgment here. I am a big fan. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you've ever heard the podcast Switched on Pop, but
no, I'll check it out.
They break down pop songs. It's a musicologist and a songwriter, and they kind of like just show you like different things and techniques in pop songs that have been used in music throughout time and why they're effective and like kind of stuff like that. It's an awesome show. But occasionally I'll send them emails, and one of the first ones I sent them was like, "Hey, do you guys like Malibu by Miley Cyrus? Because I think it's an absolutely beautiful song and it works on so many levels."
Whole album didn't get enough credit. Actually,
yeah. I also introduced them to Pearl Charles, which was another.
Yes.
So,
honestly, I was worried that was the last concert that I saw, which was like in October when it was like last concert that you saw. I was like, have I not been to a concert since October? But that was I love Pearl Charles. I even wrote her down possibly as like a favorite album ever, but I was like, that's a pretty new album. I guess that would be. bold
that
thing
blew
for me
me
to
away.
say, but I love Magic Mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, that blew me away the first time I heard it. I was just like, I immediately emailed and was like, hey, do you want to come on this show? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. When do you want to do this? I was like, what?
Okay.
I was like,
I didn't think that would work. Yeah.
No, because I do. I send emails out all the time. Like, I'm a little upset. Taylor Swift never replied to me, but whatever. Will Smith.
Screw her. Yeah.
Will Smith even post slap never got back to me, but whatever. But no, so I'm always
and he
sending.
could have used the good PR.
Exactly. I'm always sending these emails out and not expecting to hear back, and then sometimes crazy things happen. But the Pearl Charles was one of the first ones where she was just like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do this." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, she's cool as hell.
Absolutely. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Again, can be whatever you would like it to be.
Philadelphia.
Yeah?
It's so I've been here so long, especially right now. For folks who are in the future, by the time you listen to this, I think we'll be Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, we already won. Just don't even just put that energy out there. Don't even say anything other than that.
It's been such a good year for that feel good feeling of Philly too. You know what I mean? Like I moved here and that was my first experience at the city. And like when everybody's happy and getting along, and even when they're not, I don't know. I just like it here. It's like it's kept me here as long as it has. You know what I mean? Like not exactly the country music capital of the world. You know what I mean? Like,
not yet.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet. And honestly, that just, I don't know. I didn't write anything down for that. And I just realized that as soon as you asked me, I'm like, oh shit, I kind of forgot about number 10. So that was the first thing that popped into my head and heart is that, all the good and all the bad, all the gritty, all the filthy, all the, the we don't give a fuck. I just like it here. It's a great city. Eagles are great. It's, right now, loving the Philadelphia life.
Beautiful answer. So this Saturday, February 25th at 9 p.m., Brickett's Lounge.
We're going to pick up and take it to Westchester.
It's awesome. What you said, 3 hours you're doing?
We'll be 9 to 1. 9 to 1. We'll do 3 different sets. Got a great band, and great food from what I'm told. Apparently, this is a long-standing establishment. They're reopened, I think, under new management. Looks like they've, added a lot of nice neon lights on that stage. I'm pretty excited about it. So they've been doing, Western and honky-tonk music. Don't have a lot of spots that are just dedicated to that kind of music. So I'm very excited to be playing for a room full of people who are like just there to hear, country Western music and dance and drink some beers, eat some barbecue, and have a great time. So yeah, very, very excited. It's our first show at Bricket Lounge, first time in Westchester. Trying to get out of the city more, expand my wings a little bit more this year. As much as I love Philly, it can be a little saturated here with musical concerts and shows. And when you take it on the road, meet new people, never know how you're going to be received. So I'm very excited to play this place for the first time. Gonna be a honky tonk and good time.
I love it. Love it.
So if you're in the Westchester area, come on by. Free show.
Definitely. And Keep Talking comes out this Friday, the 24th, which is guys, spoiler alert, I've heard it and it's fucking awesome. You're gonna love it. So check that out. Sunbeams is out. Two Gunslingers is out. So you alluded to it. Do you have a target for the album or?
Every time I say a date, I look stupid because that's always going to take longer. But I don't know that it'll be a double release year for me. But I would like to immediately get back in there. And now, especially like with my guys kind of warmed up from these, will have been warmed up from the show at Bricket. We had another show at Dawson Street Pub February 11th. They're fresh. Let's get in the studio, lay these down. So I don't know. Let's say like I will try to take less than 2 years. So okay. maybe later in the year, maybe early 2024. Maybe I can just really like focus and get it done for you guys, and it'll be a couple months, and and I'll look real smart instead of stupid. But
That's awesome.
I'm excited to work on it. I'm excited to get back into the studio and lay it down. Yeah.
And I'm excited to listen to it. If these folks want to find you on the internet, what's the best way to track you down?
So for Roberta Faceplant, robertafaceplant.com. That's also my @ Roberta Faceplant on Instagram and, Twitter and all that stuff. For You Do You, for funky stuff, everything's usually @ You Do You Music. That's also our website, youdoyoumusic.com. And it's, like the very hard to Google phrase, just like YOUDOYOU. Our SEO is staggering. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm working on my katiefeeney.com website, so maybe that'll be up by the time this comes out. But yeah, every Wednesday at Dobbs, come and share some art with me. We have open mic at 8 p.m. and sometimes there till 2. We'll stay there till people are done playing music. But those are the many places that you can find me at, Nate.
I love it. I love it so much. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And thanks for creating like all of the very different music that you do and all of the stuff you do. And I'm very happy that that you have spit in the face of those people that were trying to stifle your art back in your performance high school, because those dummies didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. I really, really am grateful for what you do to kind of shine a spotlight on, everybody. And we couldn't do it without people like you kind of cheerleading and, making us feel like we're not just yelling into the void at no one. You know what I mean? Like, so thank you. I'm very grateful to you for having me on. I know I'm no Will Smith, but I think we had a pretty good time.
You're better than Will Smith to me, if you ask. So much fun. My thanks again to Katie for joining me on the show today. The Roberta Faceplant singles Two Gunslingers and Sunbeams are available now at robertafaceplant.bandcamp.com or wherever you stream music. And her next single, Keep Talkin', will be out this Friday, February 24th, in the very same places. This Saturday, the 25th, you can catch her performing at Brickett's Lounge in Westchester starting at 9 p.m. That show is free, so make sure to go and check it out. Links to all of these are included in the show notes. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And gang, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for articles, merchandise, and links to all of the previous episodes of this podcast. And while you are there, be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YoThat'sMyJawn and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. I gotta get me a good pair of shades because, baby, the future looks bright. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.